favor of accepting minutes? Aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Okay, minutes accepted.
Okay, we got the DANK is going to, Development Authority of North Country is going to provide an update on broadband, the survey that they're doing for us. So Jerry, go ahead and get them going if you want.
Yeah, go ahead. We'll hear from Dank.
Sure. This is Dave, do you want to share your screen so we can have the presentation? And we're going to keep this, we promise, 10 minutes or less. My name is Carl Frone. I am the new Executive Director of the Development Authority of the North Country. I also have Dave Wolf. He is our Director of Telecommunications, and Lori Marr, our Director of Communications, on the line today. And first off, I just want to thank all you folks for actually partnering with the Development Authority on the broadband study that we launched. And I think we all are aware through COVID the importance of broadband, and we believe that this study is critical in determining the areas that are underserved or unserved within Lewis County. I'm also happy to say that we were able to get, we have Lewis County as well as Jefferson and St. Lawrence are going to be commencing the same type of study. Lewis County was the first to launch, and it will be the first to finish. What this study is going to provide us with is the ability to, when grant monies are available for the Development Authority with Lewis County, to go out and try to obtain grants to expand broadband within Lewis County. It will also provide the Development Authority with a strategy to utilize our limited resources to develop additional broadband in Lewis County. Now, one thing, I like to set expectations. Does this mean that the Development Authority is going to be building fiber to every single home in Lewis County? No. If the federal government was kind enough to give us grant money to do that, there could be potential, but I think we all know that won't happen. But this will help us identify those areas where we can best invest our limited resources. Now, there are two parts of the study. One is the actual fiber inventory. And the fiber inventory is exactly that. ECC technology will go out and they will actually take an inventory of all the fiber optic cable, all the wires, all the vertical structures, all the cell towers within Lewis County. And that process has commenced, and it is actually has been completed. The ECC is finalizing the mapping and cross-checking, but the staff have been deployed in the field. They've completed that survey work, and you're going to see that in a bit. The second part is actually a survey of the residents, and this is something where we're going to need your help on. We've had actually a tremendous result. We've had 542 surveys completed to date, which is over 5% of the households within Lewis County. That was actually from ECC, our consultant's perspective. 5% was the goal. We, meeting with Ryan and Lori Marr and our staff, pretty aggressive, and Lori said 100% goal, which I don't think we'll get. We would like to get more individuals to actually complete the survey. The more folks that we can get to complete the survey, the better information we will have, the better story we will be able to tell when we're applying, for grant funding in the future. And the real value, and you'll see it in the presentation, is actually taking all the data that we're putting together and putting it in a GIS format so that you can actually see where the fiber optic infrastructure is and the individuals who actually completed these surveys. It's actually pretty neat. And then all this information, the project is complete, we will work cooperatively with Lewis County to determine, what is the next steps forward. Obviously, looking for grant monies, but also, looking to those communities where we could invest our limited resources into building out some infrastructure on our own. At that, I am actually going to pass it over to Dave Wolf, who's actually going to go through the survey information to date, the inventory and survey information to date. Dave, I'll pass it to you.
Thank you, Carl. Thank you, everyone. This is an interesting project, and this is a quick update just to show you where we are. And so on the inventory piece is where the consultant drove every road and collected information. They collected information on fiber, cable. They collected information on the coaxial cable, where different central offices are, where there's wireless towers, and where the boundaries are. And then they're adding to that other data that's publicly available, so that it kind of is a way to just check what we're doing, verify, and add some additional information so that we're sure we're not overlapping areas that may not be built today but might be built in the future. And then we'll be adding a lot more data. So the first thing they did, this is just a quick one just for people's information, the orange area is Verizon territory, and as most of you know, most of the county is covered by Frontier from an incumbent local exchange carrier. This next map is another example of some outside data that they've collected. And the white area was generally considered served by the FCC and by the state. The blue area is money that was provided by New York State under the broadband program to Frontier to build out fiber to the home and DSL. So that's important because we don't want to, necessarily spend money in those areas if it's going to be upgraded in the very near future. This little bit of yellow here is where Verizon got some money to extend fiber to the home and or DSL. So the green area is all what they consider a satellite communications area. In other words, no wire line, no fiber, no coax. So that's probably these are the areas that we would most likely focus on. This is just an example. They have these same maps for everybody. This is for Frontier and Verizon, and they have it for us and for any provider that has cable in the air except copper. They mapped out. This is actually Spectrum's network. It's a combination of where they have fiber and where they have just coax. So in some cases, they have just coax. All of this information, just to be clear, is in GIS. So when we finalize everything, we will have all of this plus all of the census data or all the survey data collected, and we'll be able to drill right into street by street to see where things are, where they end, and see what we're doing. So then this is a very busy map, and we didn't want to spend a lot of time on it, but we wanted to show you that all of these points are towers. The blue and red lines you just saw is where Time Warner or Spectrum has cable. The green lines are Frontier, or in this case, Verizon, but that's all Frontier's cable. And the orange line is the dank fiber. You can see everybody's in kind of similar areas due to density. And there are a lot of areas where there isn't much, and that's probably where we're going to primarily focus, but we have other questions that we need to answer. So we'll have lots more slides like this for you guys in the end, but this is kind of what the inventory piece is. And then a quick update on the survey, as Carl mentioned. On the survey that's been launched, we've had 542 responses as of a few days ago, which is a very good response. They were very pleased with how many we have. That survey ends February 1st, so from now until then, we'll still be collecting data. We'll still be plotting it, so the slides you're about to see will be updated. But some of the interesting ones are, first of all, this is just we have lots of other data that you'll see. Where the people found out about it and all kinds of demographic information. We just wanted to give you a few just so you see it. 80, almost 89% of the people that were surveyed were residential. The rest were business, governments, nonprofits. One of the interesting ones to us, the main reason you did not have internet was 78% said it because it's not available. Generally speaking, in most areas, that's a lower number, and the too expensive is a higher number. So the only 1.8 said because they don't have a device, which makes sense. But this was very interesting too. Does anyone have trouble completing work from home? And we'll get into that in a future slide. But 70% of the people said that yes, they have troubles. Only 13% said they don't, or 14% said they don't. The rest said no one works from home. And does anyone have trouble completing schoolwork? Almost, 47% said yes, and 38% said they don't have anybody that's in school. Only 15% said no. So it tells us that while there's quite a bit of there's coverage, it's maybe not great coverage today. And this next slide shows us that, demonstrates it, because during the survey, one of the things that we do is ask them to do a speed test. You can go to speedtest.net and it launches and it tells you what your speed is that you're getting. 8% get less than a meg, which is very slow, and 34% get 1 to 10 megs. Again, very slow. And 19% get less than 25 megs. That means that by the FCC's current definition of 25 megs being broadband, 61% of the people that have service today don't really have sufficient service to do what most people are trying to do today: stream videos, work from home, school from home, do all the things that they need to do. So we point that out because one of the things that we'll have to talk about collectively is this enough of a concern that we or at least is that enough of a concern that we have to look at, maybe supplement, not just covering unserved, but underserved as well. This is just an example of some of the responses. So we have 542 responses. We have some very good responses. This is residential, is the blue dots. The business are red. And again, we have lots more data that you'll see eventually. Every single question gets plotted like this in a map so that we can see who's got good speeds, who doesn't, who's having troubles, who's not. But we wanted to just mention this slide because while we have very good responses overall, there are a few towns, Leiden, Lewis, New Bremen, Osceola, that we'd like to get up. And Lori, I'm going to turn it over to you. We're at 9:20, so you have half a minute to talk about maybe ways you can increase the take
participation rate, yes,
response rate in some of those areas.
Hi, thanks, Dave. Yeah, so as community leaders and elected officials, we would like for you to take the message back to your communities, encouraging people to do the survey, and particularly in the towns of Leiden, Lewis, New Bremen, Osceola, and the town of Lowville. We've gotten good response in the village of Lowville, but we're looking for more in the town of Lowville. And so please encourage your folks to do that. I think you should all be familiar with the address, the website. It's www.lewiscountybroadband.com. We really prefer people to take the survey electronically because then we can get the speed test, but we know that that's not possible for everyone. So I would like to give a shout out right here to Cassandra Buell and the planning office. They've been doing a fantastic job of taking phone calls and actually doing the surveys for some people. When they call in, they actually do the surveys online for the people, and that's been great. And we're going to continue promoting that for people that don't have any online access. But we are also looking at partnering with Jefferson Community College to do a small number of telephone surveys in those few towns where we're getting really low response rates. Cassandra and I have talked about this. Cassandra being more familiar with your county, and we're going to be talking about that more. The students are on break right now, but when they come back in January, I think that might be what we do to try to increase participation in some areas. We suspect that in a lot of those areas, people don't have any internet access, so that's why we're not hearing from them. So that's what I wanted to say about that. So please encourage your constituents or your residents and community members to take the survey. The more the merrier. They have till January 31st. And at this point, we'll turn it over to questions. I will not be answering the questions, but Dave and Carl can answer questions.
All right.
Anybody got any questions?
Well, we certainly appreciate your time today. And if anyone should have any questions, feel free to reach out to myself, Dave, Lori Marr. Ryan knows how to get a hold of us. And again, we appreciate working with Lewis County in partnership on this project. And we look forward to working with you folks in the future.
Thanks
a lot, Dave. We appreciate your time and effort.
No problem. Thank you, everyone.
Take
Bye-bye.
care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, Ryan, we have another presentation.
You do. You've got the Ag Sustainability Project Proposal that's going to be led by Robin Wendell from Cornell Cooperative Extension. So whenever you're ready, Jerry, kick it over to them.
Whenever you're ready, Robin.
Okay, I just need, I think, to share screen. Cassandra, do you have a screen sharing ability for me here, or?
I just made you a co-host, so you should have that
Okay.
ability now.
Okay, let's see.
Well, Robin's getting set up. Probably just a good reminder that this committee was established by the Board of Legislators in 2019. We all recognized at the time that the ag industry in Lewis County was having, a bit of a difficult time, and maybe there was an opportunity to research and think about ways that we could be a little bit more resilient in the long run. So the board, through resolution, created this group who has been meeting and doing some good work ever since. John Lehman was the legislative representative, and he stayed on the committee even though he's no longer a legislator. But they've done some good work, and they're finally ready to report back with some of their findings and a request from the board. So go ahead, Robin.
Thank you, Ryan. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm Robin. I'm from Cornell Cooperative Extension of Lewis County. And yeah, thank you, first of all, to the Board of Legislators for commissioning this group. We feel it's been a really worthwhile year and a half working toward the goals that we established for ourselves in the beginning. And Ryan, thank you so much for your support for this group and for your participation as well, for your guidance and your leadership here. It's been very much appreciated. And I think, what we'd like to do is show you a little bit about what we've been doing. And then, like Ryan said, to put forward a proposal and request for funding that we believe is important for the county. So without further ado, I'll just talk about that a little bit. Our Sustainability Council is, we have three key working groups or three key teams that work toward the objectives that we set forth for ourselves. There's dairy, farm to school, and ag education. Dairy is obviously we'll be addressing the dairy side in just a moment. Farm to school is focused on getting local products into local institutions and into the regional distribution network, thereby helping to diversify the agricultural base in the county. And ag education, we felt the council has felt is extremely important, and the county feels is important that we really do a good job with a concerted effort toward really promoting ag careers. There's a wealth of ag careers and ag education out there for students that's critical to maintaining a robust ag workforce. Coming back to dairy, in addition to the things that you see here on the slide, monthly calendar of events, solar initiative. The solar initiative was a really important project that we worked on together that's important to dairy farmers in terms of land usage. And through that, we've worked with the county, with the planning department, and with the IDA to work on a countywide solar policy, which has been implemented. And now what we'd like to show you is the consensus that we've come to in terms of the need for support on a study on how to sustain and grow the dairy sector in our county. And I'm really glad to see that most of the people who are on the council and everyone on the dairy subcommittee is here today on the call too. So this has been a team effort. I'm glad to have everybody here. And with that, I'm going to hand over the microphone. Peter, if you'd like to unmute, Peter is going to introduce the dairy team and a little bit about ag in our county.
Can you hear me, or am I still muted?
Yep, I can hear you.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, Robin, and good afternoon to everyone. Our dairy team consists of key individuals closely involved with the dairy industry in Lewis County. Each member represents essential businesses or organizations that support and facilitate the agribusiness community in the North Country. Our members include myself, Pete Ostrom from Countryside Veterinary Clinic, Glenn Beller, owner and partner of Beller Dairy Farms in northern Lewis County, Kate Eaves from Farm Credit East, a key lender to the farming sector, Mike Krieger, also a dairy producer from southern Lewis County and director of Oneida Lewis Dairy Cooperative, Greg Holzer, one of your own Lewis County legislators and owner of GK Consulting, Joe Lawrence, who represents Cornell Pro Dairy and Lewis County IDA, Robin Wendell from Lewis County Cornell Cooperative Extension, Brian Tabolt, manager of Louville Dairy Producers, and Mike Watson, dairy nutritionist from Gold Star Feeds. Wanting to be proactive, our group sought initiatives that would further strengthen the dairy industry in Lewis County. As this slide illustrates, the sale of milk in our county is the major contributor to revenues generated from agricultural sales. Milk alone was responsible for about $114 million in 2017. In total, dairy and dairy-related sales represent over 95% of the agricultural sales in Lewis County. The fact that the dairy industry is vital to a prosperous and economically healthy Lewis County cannot be overstated. No other private industry even comes close to the financial impact that dairying has on Lewis County. For further clarification, I'll turn our presentation over to Mike Watson. Thank you.
Hi, can everybody hear me okay?
Yep.
Yep, got you.
Thank you very much. Mike Watson from Gold Star Feed. So dairy is very crucial to Lewis County. In 2019, we had 158 dairy farms in the county that spent $122 million to make 570 million pounds of milk from their 27,000 cows. They utilized $370 million in land and assets to make $124 million of income. I think that number's blocked, but I believe that was $267 million.
Yes.
Yes. So one of the things I want to point out with this, we kind of, to be short and sweet. So they took $122 million that they spent to make $124 million for the year. So that's $2 million in profits, if you will. From 27,000 cows, that's about $74 a cow for a year. So very low as far as income made, and they do turn that all back over into the county. If you could go to the next slide, Robin. So this price chart is farmers' price per hundredweight, mailbox price, what they receive. So the first circle that you see at the end of 2014, we had reached a high of $26 per hundredweight of milk shipped. Shortly into 2015, that milk market crashed and dropped over $10 down to $16. And you can see up to the second circle, it was a slow recovery, very slow recovery. Matter of fact, in 2019, that's why you guys put us together to try to figure out how we could make ag sustainable. So that second circle shows that we were starting to rebound, and then COVID-19 hit. So when COVID-19 hit, there was milk being dumped. There was a break in, getting food and stuff to the people in the community. So we did have some government programs. The CARES government program kicked out some money very quickly to farms and helped them recoup. However, it was just a horrible turn. So it was very thankful that we had been put together already and we're working on some sort of program to come up with. Another thing, and kind of in short, to give you an idea, we really wanted to have what $1 in milk price meant to the county. So in a year, if we look at $1 drop in milk price, that's $8 million in revenue through the county. So, when we saw that $10 drop annualized in that first year, that would be $80 million. So when we put these numbers in an economic multiplier, that shows about $267 million a year that, that's how we need to move that number up and down. So the people that are affected, next slide, Robin, please. The people that are affected by this would be obviously ag sales and services, equipment dealers, crop consultants, retail, veterinarian and animal services, consulting, financial business, trucking and transportation, contractors, small business owners, the work they do for farmers, Lewis County's regional professionals, educational and local government, right? We need people here for the education and we need local government. So the current trends that we've seen in the last couple of years has been consolidation, local businesses being bought up by other businesses. So we're seeing a decrease in tax base, which then puts pressure on the county for funding in helping with programs for the people who are affected. So that was kind of it, short and sweet. Just wanted to lay it out for you. I'll turn it back over to you, Robin.
Okay. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Pete. So that puts into perspective, I hope, for the Board of Legislators here, the impact that dairy has on our county and what it might mean if conditions for dairy were to deteriorate further. And so I just want to put together a few points here in terms of laying out what are the threats to that. I mean, we've already seen what the milk price alone can do in terms of economic impact to our community. But I think it's also important to look at the other threats besides just milk price, which is, it's one of the factors in our dairy business that's externally driven, whether it's international market price impact or whether it's consumer preferences. Those kinds of things have an external impact that aren't necessarily related to how much we're producing, how efficiently we're producing, and all that. Not even how milk is being consumed necessarily. We've also, as Mike pointed out, we've also seen that our supply chain is really short. In fact, I mean, we look at how COVID so quickly impacted milk across New York State. I believe the figure was 50 million pounds of milk was dumped in that first month or 2 months after COVID, and that was restaurants being closed. So fortunately, there was a little bit of dumping that happened in our area too, but fortunately we didn't see as much maybe as they did across the state. But that's always a threat, and we know that threat will not likely be reduced over the next 10 or 12 years. We know that these kinds of pandemics may be happening more frequently as we've seen. Lewis County dairy farmers are also relying pretty heavily on one buyer, and I think that anybody in business knows that when you have that kind of exposure to one buyer, you're facing some risk. And there's also heavy competition from regional and national milk co-ops who are large enough to absorb a short-term loss, and we see that competing with these larger co-ops is something that we really have to take seriously. As we saw last year, an annual contract with Kraft can be lost or not renewed at fairly short notice, and that can be that leaves a co-op with not too many options for where do you go with 12 truckloads of milk in a day. It's hard to place that kind of milk without a contract elsewhere. We also know that Kraft has recently sold its natural cheese business, which we know is going to impact the string cheese production in our county. We've heard rumors, and strong rumors, let's call them, that cream cheese production will be increased here, but how long that will take, we don't know. So that's also a consideration. And we're also seeing, I'm unable to see the top of my screen here, that the local businesses are being impacted by the declining number of farms and the milk prices. So these are some of the key threats. And I think that, just as a side note, we do know that, end of year and milk contracts are in abeyance right now. And so it just kind of highlights that sensitivity to, a fairly short-term impact that can have a really major dramatic effect on our local farmers. Because once there's no place to go with the milk, then that has to be dumped. And that's a huge expense to the farmer cooperative in general and to farmers. So with that having been said, we ask ourselves, what do we need to do as a county? And we believe it's really imperative to support the resiliency and the growth of our local dairy industry. And this is Lewis County, but also you can say this becomes a North Country issue as well. The other regions around are also experiencing the same thing. And certainly what we're talking about in our proposal would be a positive impact for the region as well by installing processing and storage capacity. And this would be to increase demand for local milk and allow for growth of local dairies of all sizes. We know that, there's always a lot of talk about large versus small. And for us, economic impact is best when it's a mix of large and small dairies, because all of the dairies are spending money and all of the dairies need goods, services, etc. And so it's always good to have a good mix of a customer base as well. We want to achieve significant positive impact to the local community and economy, ensure ability to absorb seasonal and extraordinary oversupply by producing products that increase the value of output and buffer against seasonality. And in doing that, we would foresee using technology that can lay the path for future innovation as we look at ways to grow that demand for local milk by implementing local processing and storage capacity. Also, as a part of this, during a second phase, would be working toward New York State and Lewis County energy sustainability goals by including the use of renewable energy and promoting carbon credits as incentives. So our request to the council, and I apologize for all the text in this slide, but if you'll bear with me, we would like to request the county funding for an in-depth opportunity analysis. So what we want to do is, instead of saying, oh, we want to plant in some storage capacity, what we want to do is say, let's first go out and find the opportunities. So we believe that looking into the intermediary dairy ingredient sector would be an excellent way to have a look and say what kinds of products are out there, what is the demand for these products in our region, and what is the commercial potential, and how could we make that happen? How could we take that, and we want to develop a full business case and present that to the Board of Legislators and include recommendations for public-private partnership model for the installation of these facilities. So phase one, we would be doing our commercial analysis on this, and we would be requesting about $59,000 for this. And then the second phase would be around $18,000, and that would be toward identifying how renewable energy may enhance the project value. And I would just go forward and say that phase one, we don't know what we're going to find in phase one. We're optimistic that we can find some really robust opportunities in intermediary dairy markets, as well as byproducts. We may find that there's not a case, and at that point we would say, okay, then maybe it's not worth going any further. But we may be identifying some other things during the first phase of that project that would say, hey, this is worth exploring. Maybe we should do something more like this, or maybe we should be focusing more on the byproducts and the high value byproduct value that we can get out of that will drive the milk sales and local milk production. So I think the end of phase one would really be a critical point at which we say, do we continue? Do we go forward? How do we go forward? And I think it's important to say here too that, all of those threats that I presented before, these are all threats that we can be prepared for. There's a wise man named Joe Lawrence who told me once that you can't plan for the weather, but you can't plan the weather, but you can plan for the weather. So if you can see a storm coming, you can prepare for that storm. The storm might be bad. It might not be as bad as you thought, but it's always better to be prepared. And certainly in this case, we would want to be proactively looking for ways to sustain the dairy sector in Lewis County. So this is just the phasing again. this is a more detailed funding, detailed analysis of the funding. And obviously this would be spread out over time. So we wouldn't be coming for phase 2 funding until phase 1 is over. And that gives us a way to kind of spread that out a bit. And why are we seeking county funding? I think that this is really, really important. This project at its heart is really about rural community sustainability and development. We aim to support all local dairy producers, large and small, and the related local businesses. This is an investment in growing demand for local milk and maximizing milk value. And we believe that doing a thorough job of exploring these opportunities, we feel like the county farmers really need and deserve that study to be done so that we can plot out a path forward as a county and as a community for our dairy. And given the scale and the breadth of dairy impact on this county, we believe this is a worthwhile use of county funds to explore this. So I'm just going to pause here for a moment and see if anybody has any questions so far. My next slides are more detail on the project itself. Are there any questions? Okay, so I'll keep going. So phase 1 is identifying market opportunities. The first part, what we want to do is really quantify the market for intermediary dairy ingredients. So what we're talking about in terms of intermediary dairy ingredients are dairy products that are not just raw milk, but they're to some degree processed, that are used in production. For example, if we look at the production of cream cheese, not only is milk put into the cream cheese, but also cream is put in, and sometimes they use butter blocks, for example, to melt down and use instead of cream when cream is in low supply and expensive in the summertime. So these kinds of opportunities, that's just to name one kind of simple example of what we might be looking at. But what we'd like to do in this project is really go to a majority of the major dairy processors in our region within a 200-300 mile radius, and do interviews and ask, what are they using so far? What are the opportunities they see in the next 3 to 5 years? Kind of get not only the current snapshot of market value of these different products that are used, but also kind of an idea of what's on the horizon over the next 3 to 5 years. We'd also evaluate these products that are produced and identify the importance of use of carbon footprint. So basically by product, we would be developing a business case for each product standalone, and then try to create a bundle of different products that would be viable in a plant or a facility that we'd be looking at. Then we would also want to look at how do you maximize the value of the dairy byproducts? So whenever you make something from milk, there's always kind of a byproduct. So you separate the cream, you're left with skim milk. That skim milk can be condensed. And what do you do with that condensed skim milk? What do you do with the whey that comes off? And the whey has all kinds of different interesting applications these days. How do you make sure that you're getting the most out of those different byproducts that you can? So the deliverables from phase 1 would be an opportunity assessment, a business case, and recommended PPP model. Prioritize list of target intermediary and byproducts. We want to quantify the demand for milk that would be generated. We want to quantify the impact on local dairy producers and the local economy, so we know exactly so that we have a really good idea of how that's going to play out in our community and support our community. We would also produce a high-level investment plan and financial modeling, including a 5 to 10 year P&L for the installment of a processing plant and cold dry storage. So we would present our recommendations back to the Board of Legislators in about six to 9 months, I want to say, targeting 6 months for approval and review, so that we all, and on top of that, any of the Board of Legislators who'd like to come and visit us and participate in our monthly Ag Sustainability Council meetings, we would be reviewing progress every month on the project there. So that's always an open and available option for making sure that all of our legislators are involved if they want to be participating, if they'd like to, and being able to add their expertise and guidance to the project. And then phase two is would be, following the business plan development. Then we would look at different options on how to incorporate renewable energy, determine how this may impact our clean community certification, depending on how you utilize renewable energy, and not only plant operations, but also in the cold and dry storage area. And finally, I think we've talked a little bit about cold and dry storage, and I think it's worth saying that this, we recommend, although this is going to be part of the scope of a business case that we put together, because you can't really talk about production or processing of foods without talking about storage. Where are you going to store it? How will it be stored, etc. But we know that there's also other opportunity in the area of cold and dry storage for our area. We believe that this can be done concomitantly and separately as a standalone project. We believe that there's a lot of benefit to that, and would ask that that be considered separately. We just wanted to make sure to flag this as something to be taken up with the Board of Legislators. So with that concludes our presentation. And again, I'd open that up for questions or comments.
Anybody got any questions? Yeah, this is Jerry, I do. You give us a lot of very interesting information in a short period of time.
Yeah.
Are we going to be able to get copies of this so we can look through it at further depth and try to memorize it and understand it? Because you guys put a lot of work in this. And this presentation hit, but it didn't do a lot of justification. So can we get copies for the legislators?
Absolutely. I think Cassandra had packets put together for everybody. I don't know if everybody got it.
I had emailed them out earlier, but I can definitely print them, and we can, mail them out to the legislators as well.
On top of that, I would say, Jerry, that you are more than welcome. I have a lot of other supporting documentation and analysis for this as well. So if anybody has any questions, feel free to reach out to me or to any other members of our council. Particularly the dairy committee, because we've been pretty much buried in this, for the last at least 6 to 9 months, kind of putting this case together. And it is very, very condensed. There's a lot more behind it, but we sure do appreciate the recognition. Thanks.
I appreciate that. And then I guess the other thing is to Larry, where we need to do it as a whole committee, move it to committee for further discussion after the first of the year.
So in the answer, is that question for me, Jerry?
Yes.
My thought would be to give everyone time to absorb the presentation, maybe, ask any unanswered questions, and then we could refer it to committee in January for further discussion if that's what you're thinking.
Yeah, I think we need to have further discussion on it once we digest everything they presented to us. And then if we got more questions, they can give us more information to answer those questions.
And Jerry, we would be happy to come and present more. If there's this particular area where you'd like to see a little bit more data, if you'd like to have a more kind of in-depth just discussion on one particular aspect of this, we'd be happy to do that. I know that my teammates would be happy to do that as well.
Appreciate it.
Yep.
And the rest of the legislators have questions.
Sherry, this is Eric. I've got a question.
Sure.
For Robin and the committee. I guess I'm curious, and I'm sure you gave this some thought and some logic to pursuing the intermediary products in production versus more small producers such as Black River Valley Natural. Is there, how did you differentiate that and why the intermediary products?
Yep. would anybody else on the, before, 'cause I feel like I do a lot of the talking sometimes, so I just want to see if there's anybody else who would like to answer that question first.
This is Joe. I don't mind starting out anyways, and people can add in. I think that is a very good question, and we've seen a lot of excitement about these local value-added products, but ultimately it comes down to volume and scale. You know, Robin mentioned this is, you know, truckloads of milk, 6,000 to 8,000 gallon truckloads. And in the case of Jeff Bulk, which is much, much smaller in terms of farms and cow numbers compared to Wellville producers, when they lost their contract, they were looking for 3 truckloads a day to find a home for. And so, you know, you quickly do the math and you're talking 20,000 plus gallons of milk a day. And, you know, as excited as we are about our value-added producers like Black River Valley Natural, they're in the neighborhood of using hundreds of gallons a day.
Right.
And while we would like to see them expand, the jump from hundreds of gallons today to you know, 20,000 plus gallons a day is not a small one. So these intermediary products are, you know, a volume solution, and they're also something that can be stored and distributed at a later time that aren't as perishable as some of the value-added products.
And I would add to that, Eric, that there's absolutely a need for supporting the smaller processors like that. But there's, you know, you can have, that's a longer term strategy. It generally takes, you know, 10 to 15 years for a smaller processor like that to really grow. And you can't really force a business model on a smaller operation like that. And, you know, this is, I think the larger facility is a bit more, well, it's a lot more able to handle that volume. And I think the number, it's more like 70,000 gallons per truckload when you're talking about milk. So
That's pounds. Sorry, Robin, to interject.
Yeah, sorry. Okay,
pounds.
So sorry about that, Joe. I didn't mean to step on your toes, but it's a heck of a lot of milk. And even for Jeff Bulk, finding that 3 loads a day, they were dumping milk for most of January last year. One might not think it's that much just because we see all those milk trucks coming into Craft every day, so many of them, but three trucks is a lot when you don't have a place to put it. And that's when you started seeing all the farmers dumping their milk down the drain and stuff like that, or putting it out in a field. And that is something that we hope we can avoid, you know, if we had to. But in order to kind of put that system in place, you know, we think to ourselves, how do we prepare for a storm like that? Something that, you know, could very well happen. You put the mechanisms in place to make sure that you could absorb that, but also find something good to do and grow actually milk production in the meantime significantly, so that we can support dairy in the county and that we can have all the local businesses. This isn't just about economy. It's about, I think, our, you know, the fabric of our county, the fabric of our culture, let's say. So definitely it's worth, I believe strongly that this is worth exploring. I think we need to sustain that.
It's Jerry again. I picked up off Eric there. When you go into the size of this scale though, are they going to be able to stay in business monthly, or is it going to be they gear up and take over when there's a problem? Why is a business going to want to do that if they do it in just cycles?
Anybody on the team want to address that? You want me to hear from Greg? Yeah.
Well, it wouldn't be, I wouldn't say you'd want to do it sporadically. That's not the way you're going to run that situation. What you're looking at is there's an overproduction within the state. This is what caused the milk price to begin with. I don't think this processing would have to be strictly for Lewis County dairy farmers. You can buy off the spot market, and if there's more ability to utilize the milk, then the price of milk for the local farmers and statewide would actually go up too. And producing byproducts from the milk would be basically cream and skim, which for what I see anyway, for for this particular area, because you can sell cream to Kraft every day of the week. You know, they bring in 30 to 50 loads of cream a day. So there's not really a problem, I don't think, getting a market for your cream. And then with the skim, if you run it through and condense it through an RO, pull off, so that it's fortified, heavier in protein, you're probably going to be able to sell that to a yogurt manufacturer. So you're selling bulk product, which is much easier to market and get rid of because it's a ingredient to them.
I understand what you're saying, but on the same aspect, it sounds like there's only times that we're having these problems. So I guess the question is, how do you set this up, or can you, that this company is going to be working, say, every month throughout the year?
Well, that's why I think, Jerry, that's why we talk about growing dairy and kind of making it into intermediate ingredients, because you can find a way to keep a plant busy, right? If you've got the right set of products, which is why it's important to start with the opportunity rather than the plant, which is what we're trying to do. We're trying to say, okay, what's the opportunity for the different byproducts that are utilized by other plants around our region? What can we make that we know we can sell? And we can keep a plant like this busy for 5-7 days a week, but then also have capacity later on. If we have a major event or something happens that, all of a sudden one day, an air conditioning system at Kraft goes off and there's nowhere to put that milk and they can't sit in the driveway any longer. So that we'd have capacity to be able to say, okay, we're taking this milk now, and we're able to have the place to put it. So the local farmers don't feel that impact. So I think you can achieve both things, which is why, the commercial side is really not how do we build, the premise was never how do we build it, just kind of an ad hoc plant that can process from time to time. But you go from that kind of just a safety net processing capacity to a sustainable and commercially viable one that's aimed at growing dairy and growing the amount of milk that we process here. And having that capacity, knowing that we have that extra capacity to just, make butter, for example, and to be able to store that butter for, I think Greg can back me up, you can store butter for about 18 months.
That's correct.
Right? But then you have 18 months to do something with that. And we know that there's a market for that bulk butter, right? So there are ways that you can keep that busy and make sure that you've maintained capacity and at the same time actually grow the demand for local milk, which to me is a triple win.
So, and to follow up on Greg's point about spot market is that if you want to run this plant at full capacity, part of the issue the industry has is there's everyone wants to maximize efficiency and run at full capacity, right? But it's a matter of how you want to do that. And if our goal is to help stabilize our local industry and absorb shock, then to Greg's point about buying off the spot market, you can do that to run the facility at capacity in other times. But if we have a local shock and we need to absorb that local milk production, you don't have to buy off the spot market for that day or that week. And you then turn around and absorb that, keep the plant running at capacity, not off of spot market buys, but off of that excess milk locally that needs a home. So, that's, essentially protecting our own, right? We use the market when it's advantageous, or the plant uses the market when it's advantageous. But if part of the goal and part of the initiative is to really stabilize our industry locally, then we give preference to getting that local supply to fill in the gaps. So I think, there's all sorts of business strategies out there, and I'm not saying that's the only way to go, but I think if the goal is, that it's to shore up our local industry, then you use the markets in that way. And at the end of the day, we have to take a hard look at the maximizing efficiency at all cost model that's gotten the industry into the trouble it's in now anyways.
Right. And I think, just I know this is taking us a little further down the road, but there are some really interesting things also going on in the world of dairy byproducts. We had a question earlier about what else has been done in terms of public-private partnerships. And I think it's worth noting, if we're talking about looking into the future and laying down a path for innovation, there's some interesting stuff being done in Ireland through joint venture and kind of public-private that uses like the dry lactose proteins, or I think Greg would probably be better at explaining what those but basically using those. Yeah, that's right. So they're using dairy-derived chemicals in making of bioplastics that are biodegradable. So I think that if you take a longer-term vision of that, then you say, okay, there are actually some byproducts that we can produce that might even be more valuable than the milk itself, and they would really play into that whole sustainability argument. Not only can there be an argument for carbon credits and carbon reduction, but there can also be a real argument in terms of how do we bring innovation to Lewis County in that way that kind of dovetails from our strength in dairy and then brings something that's really innovative and technologically advanced. I mean, that's obviously a way further down the road discussion, but I think that it's worth having. It's worth thinking big like that as we put together these kinds of solutions. And again, if we're able to go through with this study, we welcome the participation of the Board of Legislators, all of you, to be involved with that and to be able to give your input at every phase or any phase and say, oh, well, I'm not sure this is the right direction, or why aren't we looking at that? I think, the more heads that we put together, the better. And certainly what we've learned is in our Ag Sustainability Council is that we are a team, and this county is a team, and we're all part of the same team. And we really feel like, without a strong team pushing for this and really driving it forward, the stronger that team, the greater our chance of success and the better the project will be that results from it.
Well, we appreciate it, Robin. Thank you for diving into my question a little bit more. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. No problem. Anytime.
We're kind of running out of time, so I'm going to put it back to fellow legislators if they have any other questions. Anybody have any? Okay. What we're going to need to do is close it now. I am positive we'll have further discussions with you guys present who can make it, or we'll be back on Zoom again, because you brought a lot of information to the table today. I thank you all very much.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
Jerry, do you want me to go ahead with dockets now?
Yes, please.
Okay, the first docket is resolution authorizing a renewal contract with Cummins Sales and Service for the purpose of providing maintenance services for the generators located at all 911 tower sites and county buildings for the period beginning January 1st, 2021 through December 31st, 2021 at a total cost of $18,674.48. Is
there any questions or discussions? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried.
Resolution authorizing and approving the 2020/2021 renewal amendment to the 5-year agreement between the Lewis County Buildings and Grounds Department and the New York State Unified Court System for the provision of cleaning and maintenance services for the interior of the Lewis County Court Facility for the period retroactive to April 1st, 2020 through March 31st, 2021, in consideration of the payment of $125,531.
Is there any discussions or questions on that? All in favor, aye?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed, nay? Carried.
Resolution authorizing renewal agreement with Bernie Bus Tours Incorporated to provide public transportation management, operation, and maintenance services effective January 1st, 2021 through December 31st, 2021.
Any questions or discussions? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, nay? Carried.
Resolution amending compensation plan to the County of Lewis with reference to the District Attorney's Office to create a temporary intern position effective January 1st, 2021 through December 31st, 2021, with compensation not to exceed $8,000.
Any questions or discussions?
Jerry, this is Phil. I was wondering, is this one and the next one in the budget for 2021, Brian?
One of them carried last year. We put in, I think it was around, Ryan can correct me if I'm wrong, $20,000, and she hasn't spent all that money. So she's requested $8,000 to go what she had left over last year, and it'll end when they run out of money.
You got it, Jerry.
Do what, Ryan?
You're correct. Yep.
Thank you.
Did you get that, Phil?
Yes, I did. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or discussions? All in favor, aye?
Aye. Aye.
Mr. Chairman, I'll abstain due to a conflict.
Opposed, no? Carried.
Okay, resolution amending compensation plan of the County of Lewis with reference to the District Attorney's Office to create a temporary part-time assistant district attorney position effective January 1st, 2021 through December 31st, 2021, with compensation not to exceed $5,000.
Any questions or discussions on that one?
Is that a new?
Go ahead.
Is that Ron? Is that a new position?
Which one are you on? I'm sorry.
$5,000.
The part-time assistant DA position.
Is that new, or has she had that?
That's the same. That's the one Jerry was just talking about. It's carryover funds from last year that they still have some available. So this woman has been working for the county, and they're just finishing up some of the leftover work.
So is the intent on that at some point, and after they run out of money, that's over with?
Yeah, we only put in 5,000 this year, so there's not much. So you won't really have much to work with, so that won't go very far.
Okay.
Any other questions? Dick, do you have one or to get answered?
Well, my question was, what's $5,000 going to do at the amount of rate we're paying and stuff? So I think it kind of got answered. They're going to just terminate it once they run out of money.
Okay.
There's what she's doing specifically is she's helping with some backlog of cases that we've had from before that need to be caught up on discovery reform. So she's not putting in a lot of hours, but she jumps in here and there. $5,000 won't go far. I would guess by March they'll probably be done.
I'd concur. Thanks, Ryan.
Any other questions? Okay, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay?
I'll
Carried.
abstain as well.
What are you doing? Abstaining?
Sorry, I have to abstain, Jerry, due to a conflict.
Okay.
This and the previous one.
Resolution approving grant of easement to Dairy RNG New York Marks Farm LLC for the construction, installation, maintenance, and repair of underground manure and gas line pipes to be located in a strip of county land approximately 20 feet by 50 feet under East Martinsburg Road, County Route 22.
Any discussion, questions? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye, I guess.
Opposed, nay? Carried.
Resolution appointing member to the Lewis County Industrial Development Agency Board of Directors effective December 18th, 2020 for an indefinite term.
Any questions or discussions?
I got a question on that.
Go ahead, Greg.
Joan's ready for you, Greg.
Well, I don't believe that we should be appointing somebody for an indefinite term.
That was my question.
Okay, so since the inception of the board forming the IDA pursuant to the state legislature back in 1973, The board has named people appointed people to this board, and the term of office has been to serve at the pleasure of the Lewis County Board of Legislators. So there has never been a fixed number of years set that is allowed for under the general municipal law that affects the formation of IDAs. And that's what this board has done ever since 1973.
Well, that doesn't mean we continue to do that, does it, Joan?
No, but that's
There you
what
go.
this
That's what my
board has
point
done.
is.
So
We are 2-year termers. So why should we, as a board, appoint somebody for longer than our term? Correct? I mean, we're all up for re-election in 2021. So in November, the whole board could be voted out. And there wouldn't be a single one. So then they'd have to all bring this, they'd have to actually figure this all out and bring it all back up and spend months on it when they could just do it every 2 years. And what's the big problem with doing it every 2 years? Because we might want to make a change.
I don't mind if we establish term limits for them, but my suggestion would be that we stagger them. If you're thinking 2 years, we should make some 2 and some 3 years, so there's some continuity on that board, or 3 years, 4 years, something to that effect.
Yeah, do half of them for 2, and then the other half a year later do for 2 more, do for 2, so that there would be continuity there.
Gary, if you don't mind, if I put in a comment, just given my past knowledge on the topic, I think I might just address Greg's last comment. It confuses me a little bit. If you have terms for IDA board members that expire when legislative terms expire, and all 10 of you are gone, you're going to have new legislators coming in that have to appoint new IDA board members. That might be difficult.
Why would that be difficult?
Because you're going to have new legislators coming in that have no knowledge of the subject matter.
Well, if they're coming in as new legislators, I guess they would have some grasp of what's going on within the county.
Yeah.
I mean, I did.
I'll leave the comment there. I think, again, I'm not exactly sure what Joan's research is on the state law, but I think if we did research across New York State, I think almost every IDA has open appointments to their board. And it works pretty well because you appoint board members and then they're there. And if they're doing a good job, they stay there. If you choose to remove them, you just appoint somebody else. That's the way it works.
Well, I still disagree. And since I'm a legislator, I'm going to continue to point that out, that they should be elected or selected terms.
Greg, I'm not against the idea of reappointing them every 2 years. My only thought would be just have it so there isn't a term limit, or at least make the term limit pretty long, just so we're not cycling through talent too quickly. I don't know, but I haven't made any appointments to the IDA yet, so I don't know what your thoughts are on that. Is that kind of what you're thinking?
That would be fine. If the person comes up for reappointment, it's just like the hospital board. They come up for reappointment, you reappoint them. That's the way it works. The hospital board of managers works that way. I don't know why the IDA should be any different.
Yeah.
The hospital board as a county board is actually, that's also in the statute where they have to serve for a certain period of years. That is not so under the general municipal law for IDAs.
That's because we haven't made it that way, Joan.
No, I'm talking about hospital board of managers in the statute say that they serve for 5-year terms.
Right. I understand that. I realize that. We could do the same thing with the IDA.
Well, we've heard from 2 people and stuff like that. What do the rest of the legislators think?
Gary Dick here. My question is, it says appoint member to the IDA. If I'm supposed to, or we as legislators are supposed to appoint qualified people, without a name, it's pretty hard to tell the backgrounds, the characteristics and what have you of the individual we're appointing.
What do you mean
Individual's
without a
name is on the
name?
resolution.
The
I was
resolution says appoint member to Lewis County IDA on my sheet, no name.
Gotta look at the resolution.
Is in the packet.
It's the Lehman, Mackenzie Lehman.
Okay, okay, thanks. I'm looking, yeah, I'm looking at the condensed sheet up front. Okay, thank you.
Any other thoughts?
Well, there you go. There's another thought right there with that Dick just brought up. We're supposed to be appointing this person, but we really, not all of us happen to know that person. I mean, should we not, maybe be introduced to that person before they get appointed? Kind of like an interview process? Or at least have their resume?
I would offer that normally we do an interview process. There were resumes submitted for this position, and we did not do a interview in this case because they were looking to the position that they were trying to fill was one held by an engineer.
Yeah, it was held by TIFs.
Yep. So so they were looking for someone with that ability to replace that person. McKenzie is an engineer with BCNA. There were two applications, if I recall correctly. The other one was not an engineer and didn't really fit. The resume didn't fit what they were looking for. I talked to Jerry King about it and some of the other legislators, and no one had a problem with moving her name forward. So
I never heard of it. Never heard of the interview, never heard of any of that. So you're speaking with just one or two people there, Larry.
I spoke with more than one or two people, Greg.
Well, you didn't speak with me, so.
Well, I'm apologize if I didn't speak with you. I really am not.
Oh, well, that's why I'm saying this process needs to be worked on and changed.
So your
Definitely.
concern is that because you weren't involved, then this person is not qualified?
No, I didn't say that. Don't put words in my mouth, especially. I didn't say that. It'd just be nice to know the person, understand what there's in their resume. I'm a legislator just like you are, Larry.
I thought we discussed her at one of the meetings. I remember her coming up.
Not in one of our meetings.
I don't remember it, but Larry, I thank you for your comments on that. And that's all I was looking for, something so we could justify why we selected to appoint the person. So I think moving forward, if that was just put in the resolution, it would help everybody on the board. I feel better about it myself, knowing what you just said.
Any other questions or discussions? Okay, are we thinking about appointment terms? Are we going to stagger them completely? How many are on the board? Could it be, starting with they end up every year we reappoint someone or appoint someone new?
Gary, why don't we study that and bring it back rather than making a decision today? Let's look at what some of the other counties do, and whether it's 2-year terms or 4-year terms, and why don't we bring that back to the board? Would that be good? Because
why do we need to look what other counties are doing? I don't agree with that either. I mean, why are we comparing ourselves? We're Lewis County, so let's look at us as number one, and worry about it Jefferson County or any of the other ones some other time.
Greg, I'd be inclined to support doing a staggered board, honestly, just because that's how most nonprofit boards operate. And I think it's just good business practice. But for my part, I'd like to know what other counties are doing before we, if there's a good reason not to. Maybe they've thought of something we haven't, but that'd be my only reason for wanting to know what they do.
How about everybody else?
As it stands right now, if there's somebody on the board that we don't like, are we able to say, get rid of them immediately?
Not necessarily.
Yes, you are. They serve at the pleasure of the board.
Only the majority of the board.
Well, that's true for any of these issues, Greg.
Mm-hmm. Well, you just got to specify that, Joan. Majority.
Well, I mean, what do you think we ought to do? Take it back to committee and have a discussion, and you want to participate with us? Greg?
Well, I'd like to know more about this person, a resume. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
You know.
Wait, just for the record, I mean, we probably could have gotten a little more detailed information out. I mean, you guys, you get the packet on Thursday. If you wanted more information, Greg, we could have gotten that to you. I mean, waiting till 11 o'clock the day of, it's hard for us to get you all that information. That's why I think if we had a little more time, if this is an issue you guys want to look at, term limits and such.
We do. This is just committee.
Okay, good. Let's look at it. But I can't,
why not table that committee?
Let's make an informed decision and have a resolution for next month.
That good with everybody? All in favor, aye?
Well, Jerry, just a little clarification. We're voting on taking a look at it and then voting next month, or we're voting on?
Yeah, putting something together, have Greg's input and stuff like that, and try to come up with something that everybody's satisfied with.
Okay, thank you.
I mean, what's taking a month and going through that stuff?
Yeah, okay, I just wanted to know what I was voting on. Thanks.
And then we bring it to the whole committee and have a discussion and go from there.
So you're tabling this resolution, Jerry?
Yeah. I'll make a motion table it for further discussion.
Jerry, are you tabling the appointment or tabling the discussion on term limits?
Term limits, how we're going to do it.
Okay, thank you.
So we're putting this resolution forward, correct, Jerry?
Yep.
With an indefinite term.
Well, if we correct it, they're all going to be corrected later. If you want to hold it, that's fine.
Yeah, we can change this. We could change this next month.
Right.
Okay, good.
So what do you want to do? Hold it? Dick?
No, we'll change it.
If we can change it, that's fine.
I mean, I think regardless of who's in there, it's going to affect everybody. Am I wrong in that? It's not retroactive.
That's correct.
Retroactive, I mean.
Well, if we're gonna change them, it's going to be for all of them. So,
yeah.
We can move forward on this one and change it. Move forward with her appointment, and then if we wish to establish term limits,
we can add them
staggered or whatever.
That'd be a policy change.
We can do that at a later date. Yeah.
Is everybody good with moving this one forward? I said, is everyone good in moving this forward?
Yes. Aye.
Only got one or two.
I said aye earlier.
Aye.
Okay, 3 and aye. It's all carried.
Resolution appointing member to the Lewis County Planning Board effective January 1st, 2021 through December 31st, 2023.
Any discussion? That'd be, and we can change this one too, if we change the policy, so. Any discussion?
This one has December 31st, 2023 in it, I think, right?
Yeah, this is not an indefinite term.
Right.
So what's the committee's thought? Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Resolution appointing members to the Lewis County Fair Housing Task Force effective December 18th, 2020 for an indefinite term.
That goes right back to if we're going to do one, we're going to do the rest of them.
Absolutely.
Yes.
That would only be fair.
Yes.
Well, I mean, if we got a problem with one, we should have a problem with all of them.
Yes.
Right.
So we'll put that one, I mean, you guys willing to pass that now and then set the date or whatever we come up with? And make it afterward, retroactive? Ian? You got good thoughts. I'm picking on them. Whatever the majority wants to do. So I'll throw a motion out that we move forward. All in favor, aye.
Jerry, I'm sorry. What was move forward on what?
Appointing this person or people to this docket. And then we'll correct it afterwards, like we're going to correct the other one if we want term limits. If we do for one, we should do for all.
Right.
Jerry, I'm okay with approving it with the idea that we are going to adjust it later.
Okay, but I'm not hearing from the rest of the committee, so. All in favor, aye. Opposed, nay.
Aye.
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 Okay, carried.
Resolution authorizing application to the New York State Office of Community Renewal for up to $500,000 in 2021 New York State Main Street funding for a downtown stabilization project located at 7154 South State Street in the Village of Wabble.
Any questions or discussions?
Jerry, this is Phil. That resolution says 75% of the cost. Who pays the 25%? And if it's, by doing this, are we committing ourselves to paying the 25%?
I always thought it was the recipient, correct me if I'm wrong, Joan, that gets the grant is the one responsible for paying the remaining balance. Unless the county does something to step in.
I'm going to defer to Cassandra on that. I don't have the background info on it.
Sure. The only thing that the county would be liable for is the administration of the grant. It comes from OCR, filters down through the municipality, and then the money goes to the local developer. So the local developer would be required to provide that 25% match.
Okay, thank you.
And you should get some administrative money out of that grant.
Right. Yep. Typically 5 to 7%. Yes.
So that would cover our cost.
Yes.
Which building is this, Cass?
The old jail facility. We're looking at.
We don't own that though.
Right. We don't. That's why it has to go through us to the developer. So essentially what the funds are hoped to be used for is asbestos and lead abatement, facade improvements, roof repair, interior improvements, and the soft costs for environmental review, permitting, and architectural consultations. So
TLS doing that?
Right now TLS owns the building. So there is a developer that's looking to purchase that building from TLS and turn it around for a multi-use facility. But it's very difficult to pay the costs of abatement, and there's very few grants out there to clean up asbestos. So luckily this New York State Main Street funding was just released and we hopped right on it. We already had this project in our sites, and it fit with the downtown stabilization project fund.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Sure.
Thanks.
I have one more question for Cassie.
Yeah.
You're still there, Cassie. So TLS is looking to sell it to a developer?
Yes.
Now,
go ahead.
Would they substantially profit from that?
I have no idea. All I know is TLS could not use it for what they intended to use it for.
Well, then maybe it should have reverted back to the county for $1.
And I don't know the legalities behind that.
Well, I don't think we'll probably find out either. I mean, that would be kind of an odd thing to explain to the taxpayers, I would think. how they purchase it for $1 and then they turn around and sell it for a substantial amount of money.
And I'm not sure what the status of that was back when it was sold. I apologize, Greg.
That's okay. I know it was sold for $1.
And I'm assuming it had to do with the environmental cleanup that was required of it, because it is pretty substantial, the cost of it, so.
Is there any other questions or discussions?
Jerry Dick Chartrand here. I got one question if I can, Cassie.
Sure.
I thought that we had a application or what have you in the works for a $10 million grant for downtown revitalization, and we probably were working our way through the process of working to the top of being eligible for that. Does this have any impact on that other one?
No, actually, it would add to the ability for us to get that DRI. In 2019, we submitted a DRI project proposal. We did not win it. Potsdam won it for our region. Last spring, we had initiated the 2020 application for the DRI. It's an annual project submission, and they did not end up going through with that funding because of COVID. So we're hoping that 2021 puts that back on the availability list, because we were, the reviews that we had gotten from our first submission were really, really great. This project would be outside the DRI boundary that we had identified, but being that it's so close to that DRI boundary that we've identified, it would help our DRI application.
Okay, thank you for the explanation.
Sure.
Any other questions? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
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 Aye. Opposed, nay? Carried.
Resolution authorizing application to the New York State Office of Community Renewal for up to $20,000 in 2021 New York Main Street funding for a technical assistance project located at 5960 Main Street in Glenfield.
Any questions or discussions?
What's the property?
That is the, well, soon to be decommissioned Glenfield Elementary School. So we're looking at a study to evaluate the reuse of that building and the potential reuse of the building. We submitted an application last year on the CFA. We did not get the reward, so this is a different pot of funding that we're hoping that we can get the award for.
Call from Weiler David. Call from Weiler David.
Any other questions or discussions?
Call from Weiler David.
Okay, all in favor, aye. Opposed, nay?
Aye.
Call from Weiler David.
I'm going to pay the phone bill.
Okay.
Resolution authorizing Phase 1 hazardous materials assessment survey on the brick block building in the village of, there was a typo, it should say the village of Turin, not West Turin, and authorizes an agreement with DANK to assist in the Phase 1 project for a total cost of $12,000, $5,000 to DANK, and estimated $7,000 for the hazardous materials assessment survey, payable from the Planning Department's 2020 Community Development Funds.
Any discussions or questions on the study?
What's the actual cost to the county? Do we know that?
$7,000.
Yeah, sounds like a deal.
Well, it would be up to $12,000, $7,000 for the actual hazard materials survey. And then after DANK receives those results from that survey analysis, then DANK is going to put together a project proposal and scope for grant funding so that we can access to clean up the site and reuse it. Pretty dangerous right now.
Any other questions or discussions? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, nay? Carried.
Resolution authorizing agreement between Lewis County Probation Department and Children's Home of Jefferson County for the provision of non-secure detention services for the temporary boarding and care of juveniles placed into the custody of the Probation Department by family court for the term beginning January 1st, 2021 through December 31st, 2021 at a cost of $450 per day. Upon submission of a voucher, the state may reimburse up to 49% of the cost.
Any questions or discussions?
How many kids does that typically work out to? I know we've talked about it before.
Ryan?
Almost none. Secure detention, none. We haven't had someone in secure detention in all the years, in 3.5 years that I've been here.
No, this is non-secure.
Oh, non-secure. Still not many. We don't utilize that much, but I don't know. I'd have to get you an exact figure, Ian.
That's a low cost.
Yeah. Okay.
Any other questions or discussions? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Carried.
Resolution authorizing an agreement with McCluskey Law Firm to provide conflict defender services to commence January 1st, 2021 through December 31st, 2021 at a cost not to exceed $71,400.
Any questions or discussions? All in favor, aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Carried.
Resolution accepting additional permanent easement in the town of Leiden from landowners Gregory Grower and Sharon Grower to be used, repaired and adjusted and maintained by the county's Recreation, Forestry and Parks Department as part of the county ATV OHV trail system.
Any questions or discussions? All in favor, aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Carried.
Resolution to appropriate funds in the Sheriff's Department in the amount of $6,000 to pay for the Shop with a Cop program using donated funds.
Any questions or discussions? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Carried.
Resolution authorizing a membership agreement between the Lewis County Sheriff's Office with Project Lifesaver International for radio tracing and locator of at-risk individuals under its startup program cost of $5,120 payable from the 911 Public Safety Surcharge Funds.
Questions or discussions? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Carried.
Resolution authorizing agreements between the Lewis County Sheriff's Department and various providers for program services for the period from January 1st, 2021 through December 31st, 2021.
Any questions or discussions? Brian, program services, what might they be?
Jerry, it's listed on the actual resolution. This is for the David Rosner, the physician at the jail.
Okay.
Black Creek Integrated Systems, these Sally Port computer software.
Okay.
And One Path Career Partners, that's for the psychiatrists that we have to have on call.
Okay, thank you. All in favor, aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Carried.
Okay, we need a motion to authorize Sheriff Carpinelli to refill 2 part-time correction officer positions effective immediately.
Any questions or discussions? All in favor, aye.
Nope, this has to be a motion.
Oh, motion, okay. I'll make a motion that we allow the sheriff to hire 2 part-time correction officers to replace the ones that have left.
I'll
Have a
second that. Ian seconds.
All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Carried.
Can we get a motion for adjournment for this committee?
I bet you I can. We have a motion to adjourn.
I'll move.
Andrea. We have a second?
Second, Dick.
All in favor, aye.
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 No, I heard everybody that time. Thanks a lot. We do have an executive session later, so.
So folks, we really are behind on time because we were going to try to start our ad hoc committee at 3. So couple options. We can send out a quick message and tell folks the ad hoc's not going to be able to start till 3:30. Or we can just finish up when we, in the next 20 minutes and then come back and do our executive session after the ad hoc. But either way, we do not have the time that we thought we would have. So apologies on our end for that one.
That's my fault.
I make a motion to do the ad hoc another day. I think we need time for discussion with our committee meetings.
Well, we already told everybody it's today, didn't we?
Yes, we did send out the invite to everyone.
We did.
Yeah, I would say, to Andrea's point, maybe push it out to 3:30 so that we can get through this, because there are other people involved in that committee that have set aside time to participate in that discussion. And I hate,
we always cram everything in one day. We need to stop doing that. We need time.
I apologize for running so long.
It's not your fault, Jerry.
Hey, Jerry.
Yeah.
It's Ron. I missed a call from you. Is that anything you need to talk about?
Yeah, but I'll do it after the fact. I'll call you.
I'm not going anywhere, so call anytime.
Okay.
Okay, Cassandra, can you make a note to our folks that are planning on getting on at 3 that it'll be pushed back to 3:30? Hopefully they'll be okay with that. These other 2 committees should be pretty light agendas, so we should be able to move through them pretty quick.
Ryan, are we doing the ad hoc on the same channel we're on now?
No, it's a different Zoom invite.
Okay.
Oh, another invite. Okay.
You gonna give it to us?
It was sent out on Friday last week.
I can't get into my computer.
yeah, can you resend that so they have a current one? Does that conflict with the original one? Send a new one out so they'll have it right on top of the email.
Okay, I can over here.
I'm not sure if you can do that because then
Cassandra, I can forward it. I'll forward it to the legislators from my end.
We can use the same Zoom invite. It won't start at 3 o'clock. It'll start
Right.
Right.
Later. Everybody will just get on at 3:30. Right.
But if you could find that, Joan, and forward it.
I have it. I'll forward it on to the legislators.
Thank you.
So we're done here, right? For now.
No, we're just getting started, Ron. Hang around.
Jesus, Miller time. What's wrong with you?
Just stop your video when you have the impulse and you can turn it back on later.
That's a thought. Oh, dear.
All right, Andrea, you're up.
Okay, Ryan, do we have any presentations?
No, we do not
No.
today.
Okay. Did everyone receive a copy of the last month minutes? And if you did, are you in favor of the minutes as written?
No problem.
I think we need a motion.
Yes, please.
I'll make it.
I'll second it.
You.
You're not even on this committee.
Who isn't?
Probably me.
Run.
I'm
Ron,
sorry.
you're always jumping.
Well, I like to be involved.
Yes, you do. So are we ready for the doc? Or where are we at?
I need to have somebody make the motion that's on.
I'll make it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Greg.
And, Dick, you seconded it?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we're ready for dockets?
Yep, the first docket is resolution authorizing renewal agreement between the Lewis County Community Services Department and Rubensall, Knutson and Associates psychological services for the purpose of conducting psychological examinations of dependents as required pursuant to CPL 730 for a period beginning January 1st, 2021 through December 31st, 2021.
Any questions or discussion? All in favor?
Yep.
Yep.
Any nays? Okay.
Resolution reappointing members to the Lewis County Office for Aging Advisory Council effective January 1st, 2021 through December 31st, 2023.
Any questions or discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Yep.
Any nays?
Resolution reappointing member to the Lewis County Health Services Advisory Board effective January 1st, 2021 through December 31st, 2024.
Okay, any questions or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any nays?
Resolution authorizing agreements between the Lewis County Department of Social Services and the County Law Department for legal services and representation in family court matters, child support enforcement proceedings, and collection and recovery matters for a period beginning January 1st, 2021 through December 31st, 2021.
Any questions or discussion? All in favor?
Yep.
Yep.
Aye. Any nays?
Resolution authorizing renewal agreements between the Lewis County Department of Social Services and various providers for program services.
Any questions or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any nays?
Resolution authorizing renewal agreement with Toshiba America Business Solutions, DBA TBS, for the electronic document management system DocuWare required by the Lewis County Department of Social Services.
Any questions or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? Okay, I think that concludes our committee meeting.
Andrea, I have one additional thing that came in late that you and I discussed earlier today.
Okay.
We've been talking for a while now about our capacity in-house to handle COVID-19 response. I've been saying, a squishy number of about 130 active cases would begin to push our organizational limits in terms of contact tracing, quarantining, and monitoring 130 people. So we are obviously reaching that point, and what we would like to do, and I apologize, this wasn't in your packet on Thursday, but the way COVID goes, things change so quickly. Caitlin and Ashley and I talked yesterday, and I was able to talk with Larry and Andrea today. But we would like the board to consider creating 5 new positions for public health. They would be per diem temporary positions. They would be public health project manager or COVID-19 specialist. We will steal some language from some other counties that have already created those positions. Caitlin might have a couple more details, but it would be about $18 an hour, and the position would be no more than 18 months, which I think would be overkill probably. But the goal would be to bring some folks on board that can help full time with monitoring and case investigation. So that's what we're asking the board to consider. And if it's something that you're open to, we would put together a full resolution with some more details for Thursday. But Caitlin, can you fill in a little bit of the gaps there, please?
Yeah, so you kind of went over it really well. We're looking at other language that other counties are using as they're starting to also decide to take those leaps and hire some per diem or temporary employees. We're looking at what that language means for us, specifically around contact monitoring, investigations, and what they can do there. We're looking at a title of a project assistant, considering COVID-19 is a project for public health. So, finalizing that, what that job description would look like, and essentially hiring people in 6-month increments. So starting at a 6-month start, and then we can continue their extension. But as Ryan said, no more than 18 months. And we believe that'll be, more than enough time to get through, hopefully, this current state.
So it would be good to have them on board through the vaccine rollout as well, because that's going to be a massive undertaking by the county. So, those extra bodies will be helpful there as well. So the risk here is that, I'll give you the unvarnished opinion that, Ashley and I have from talking with some folks at the state. On Monday, the governor announced 5 or 6 more yellow zones and upgraded some yellow zones to orange. And statistically, we would be in those categories. But because the state is keeping track of our response rate, so when their lab gets a positive, they keep track of how long it takes us to put that in the system and contact trace that case. Then they keep track of how long it takes us to contact those people that were identified in the case investigation. And then they keep track of how often and how regularly we are contacting folks who are positive and monitoring their symptoms. And because we are able to do all those things right now, within the first 24 hours, we are basically keeping ourselves from becoming a yellow zone. And so in order to maintain that, we're asking for some more hands. And I know some of the legislators have volunteered. I talked to Andrea earlier to get involved, and we've got things that we can have you guys do. Absolutely. We can hook you up with a laptop and a phone and get you trained up on ComCare, the state system. And so we will take all hands, but it's also a good thing to have some full-time people that can report directly to Ashley that can help fill those gaps. So that's the request. And if it's something you're open to, we'll put it into a full-blown resolution for Thursday. So
what about benefits?
Ryan, this is Phil.
Yep.
So concisely, you're talking initially 5 full-time, part-time people at $18 an hour for 6 months. Is that true?
Yes.
And could those people work remotely?
Some. The contact tracers will probably bring into our physical plant somewhere. The monitors, we're thinking initially 2 2 case investigators and 3 monitoring. The monitoring folks could work from home, but the case investigators, we would want them in to train directly with public health nurses, probably, at least at first.
So would there be a specific qualification for these people?
So the minimum qualifications are just going to be a high school degree. We're going to look for a preference with anyone who's had any experience in the health and human services field, but this could be a great opportunity for, college students or, a variety of people. But no, the minimum qualifications right now are just set as, a high school degree with a preference of a health and human services background, just because, again, for case investigators, you're going to be talking to them about and monitors for that fact, talking to them about symptoms and their health concerns and, giving them, fairly routine advice, but still could be something we just want them to have that background on if possible. Doesn't mean someone can't learn it, but we'll be, looking for those things.
So
I have a question for you,
it could be a
Caitlin.
broad spectrum of people in a broad spectrum of areas.
It could be, yes. Yeah, I mean, look at what we're doing right now. We have everyone, on our staff. We have so many people with various backgrounds doing quarantine activities, monitoring, our codes guys are calling, various things. So doesn't mean you can't learn it, but definitely looking for that preference because that's going to be their full-time function. And we're going to hope to get a lot of volume out of those people to help with the increased volume and, give our staff some time to do their normal activities.
Subject to renewal after 6 months.
Yes. Yeah. So it's going to be a consistent reevaluation. Yep.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Ryan, a
I
couple
have a
of
question
things.
for you. Oh. Go ahead.
What's
Dick.
the budget? Yeah, what's the budget impact? And the other comment is, this sounds a lot like the JCC people who do a survey for us. you might want to advertise with them and see if they've got some recent graduates that might be interested in something like this.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a good point.
Yeah, good point, Dick. I think actually a great demographic to hit for this would be college kids, especially those that are studying biology or something like that, you know, pre-med. We've already had a couple contacts help and say they're interested in assisting, you know, nursing students or pre-med, you know, students that are home for the holidays. So that might be a great place to hit. In terms of budget, we do still have some CARES Act funds. The federal government sent us $70,000 to public health. That's the only money we got besides bus operations. That's the only money we got for CARES Act. We think about 20,000 of that will be spent with the Maple Ridge Testing Center, and the other 50 we really haven't touched. So this won't be that expensive, but we've got a pot of 50,000 that is available for this expense.
Okay,
Brian,
I've got
is
a
there any
question.
chance of taking some of our money from this year and moving it forward into paying for that next year? So if, you know, every year when we balance up, we have excess funds that goes into fund balance and what have you.
Yeah, the CARES Act money will carry forward anyway, because
Okay.
that's kind of emergency funds. So that'll carry forward. If we get deeper than 50,000, then we'll have to be a little more creative. But, you know, frankly, we kind of need, this is money we have to spend. I mean, we you know, if we need fund balance or we need to take it from someplace else, we can do that.
Yeah, no problem. I concur. We got to spend it. I just wondered what the amount was. Thank you.
Yeah, I have a question.
Mhm.
What about Caitlin?
Yep.
What about the benefit packages? Would they, being per diem, would they get benefits?
No, so we're looking at temporary status so that there wouldn't be benefits. It would just be flat rate.
We'd have to pay into their health insurance because we have to pay or I'm sorry, we have to pay into their pension because we have to pay into
Your
everybody's.
retirement, but no health, medical, nothing along those lines.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, I think it's something you ought to put together for us, Ryan.
Yeah, well, so you're good if we bring forward a more full proposal for Thursday?
I have a question about this. Would this free up nurses to actually be administering the vaccinations? What's the plan for?
When we get to that point, that would be ideal if we could have nurses not doing some of these services. Our public health nurses are, you know, busy with the case investigation. So then if these individuals have time to do that, vaccines can be given by our nurses.
Yeah, I think everyone's anxious to start looking at some more specifics when it comes to vaccine rollout. But my opinion, talking with Ashley, talking with the state DOH, I think it's going to be quite some time before we get to a general public rollout. So when we do receive vaccines, they'll be very targeted for, you know, nursing home staff, healthcare workers, EMTs. You know, when we're really talking about an operational level where we've got to get, you know, the entire community through, obviously we've got a lot of work to do with that, but it's hard to say even when, you know, time, you know, when that will happen. My opinion is I don't think it'll be in the next 2 months even. I think you're looking at even, you know, into the spring. So, but things are happening quickly. You know, just so you guys are aware, we do have plans. We've had plans that don't just sit on the shelf. We do drills for mass vaccinations. So we know how to get multiple people through. And a lot of it will depend on the type of vaccine that we're sent, you know, which type of, you know, which company's vaccine it is, what, you know, the temperatures it needs to be stored at. The state has got to put a lot of logistics together before we know enough details to start putting our logistics together. But, you know, we do have 5 public health nurses, and my guess would be any nurse, you know, in this community, retired, working, will be put to work putting vaccines in people's arms, you know, the second we have more details. So.
Lisa, I think Ryan is maybe referring to you.
Yeah. Real subtle.
Okay, is that all for our committee?
Motion to adjourn.
Okay. Very good, thank you.
Aye.
Okay, we all set to jump into finance and rules?
Yep.
Right.
Okay, call a meeting to order for Finance and Rules Committee. Minutes were sent out. If nobody had or any disagreement with what's in them, I'll entertain a motion to accept the minutes as they were written.
Phil,
Okay, Phil, do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Greg?
Okay.
Minutes accepted and passed. We don't have any presentations, so we'll move along to dockets.
Adopting local law number 1-2021, a local law providing for increases to salaries for certain local officials.
Any questions or comments? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried.
Resolution reappointing Lindsay Burris as the Democratic Commissioner of Elections commencing January 1st, 2021 through December 31st, 2022.
Any questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Resolution reappointing Ann Nortz as the Republican Commissioner of Elections commencing January 1st, 2021 through December 31st, 2022.
Questions or comments? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Carried.
Resolution appointing member as a Republican representative to the Lewis County Ethics Board effective January 1st, 2021 through December 31st, 2023.
Questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Resolution to appropriate funds in the Information Technology Department accounts from Project HAE Capital Equipment in the amount of $10,000 to make purchases of computer equipment for other county departments throughout 2021 as the need arises. We did want this to go through committee today. However, it accidentally got put in the board packet for Thursday, so we will withdraw it on Thursday because it does need to go forward in 2021 as it deals with 2021 funding.
So do we have to pass it as it is now?
Yeah, if you want to go ahead and give me approval, then I will make sure it's in the January packet, not
Okay.
vote on it, or we won't
All
pass
right.
it on Thursday.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried for January.
Resolution appointing members to the Labor Management Safety Committee effective January 1st, 2021 through December 31st, 2022.
Questions or comments?
I was curious because the body of the resolution says Jessica Skiff or Bobby Joe Call, and I didn't understand. Is that like if one's not available, the other one does it, or
Yes, that's correct, Phil. If one of them can't make it, then the other one can attend in their place.
Okay, thank you.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
This is another one that we will withdraw on Thursday because we accidentally left out two of the new outside agencies that will be receiving funding. They are hand in hand, as well as LCDC. They were passed, or they were put in the budget and the budget passed. So we will have a replacement resolution on Thursday. I will make sure I send that out to all of you. But the resolution will be to authorize agreements between Lewis County and outside agencies for fiscal year 2021.
Okay, any questions or comments? All in favor, aye.
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 Opposed? Carried.
Resolution authorizing distribution to certain villages to assist in water/sewer district infrastructure/systems in the amount of $71,514.09.
Questions or comments? All in favor, aye.
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 Opposed? Carried.
Resolution to authorize the Lewis County Treasurer to re-levy such returned school taxes and village taxes on the individual parcels as listed on the school returns and the village returns, the corresponding parcels listed on the 2020 assessment rolls for the 17 towns in Lewis County.
Questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Resolution adopting investment policy and guidelines for deposits and investments of monies received by the treasurer of the county of Lewis.
Any questions or comments? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Resolution authorizing agreement between Lewis County Treasurer and Burke Group to provide actuarial services for post-retirement healthcare benefits valuation and reporting for fiscal year ending December 31st, 2020, for the term beginning January 1st, 2021 through December 31st, 2021 at a cost not to exceed $10,000.
Questions or comments?
Is this a renewal?
I believe so.
Yes, it is.
Is it in the budget?
Yes, it is.
Sounds like a winner to me.
Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Resolution authorizing county treasurer to correct errors on tax rolls provided said correction is 2,500 or less during calendar year 2021.
Questions or comments? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Resolution authorizing the supervisor of each town in the county of Lewis to add the amount of the apportioned 2021 county tax to the warrant payable to the tax collector of their town, and the sums collected to be paid to the treasurer of Lewis County and shall be paid pursuant to law.
Questions or comments? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Carried.
Resolution to schedule the Lewis County Board of Legislators 2021 organizational meeting to be held on Tuesday, January 5th, 2021 to begin at 5:00 p.m.
Questions or comments? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
We need a motion to authorize Sheriff Carpinelli to okay, just hold on one second. I'm sorry. We need a motion to authorize Sheriff Carpinelli to refill 2 part-time correction officer positions effective immediately.
I'll make that motion. This is Phil.
Can we get a second?
I'll second it. What about this full-time deputy?
That was an error. It was not, it was mistyped. And then secondly, can I have a motion to authorize the workers' comp excess liability renewal with Midwest Employers Casualty Company at a premium of $80,321 effective January 1st, 2021 through December 31st, 2021.
I wasn't on here either.
I apologize for that. Honestly, I've just been busy with COVID stuff and it just got missed.
So there was, yes, I'd second it.
Is that a renewal, Cassandra?
Yes, it is a renewal. Greg, did you want to make that motion?
Yeah, I'll make that motion.
What a guy, Greg.
Well, did you want to second it? Or do I have a second from somebody?
I'll second it.
Thank you.
Yep.
So was there a full-time deputy resignation or not? I mean, you typed it, so.
I think that the next would be the executive session for personnel matters.
So do we need to vote on those 2 motions?
Yes, we got them out of the way.
Okay.
If you want to ask for a motion to go into executive session for personnel
Okay, have a motion to move into executive session.
Just note that that's for a personnel matter.
Joan, can we stay on if we're not on this one committee?
Sure.
Yes, the legislators can stay on.
Thank you.
And the treasurer, the HR director, I don't know who else is on,
What's the treasurer need to be on for?
because it always, the treasurer always sits in on that in case we have questions about financing.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, if you want to excuse him, you can do that, but I'll leave that decision up to you.
No, pardon, I didn't hear you.
If you want to excuse the treasurer from the executive session, you can do that, but I'll leave that up to you.
No, treasurer can stay in.